Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me. I am Ginger Gentile, the director of the Erasing Family documentary. And today we're going to discuss how we can turn schools into being part of the problem, an institution that right now is not helping prevent families from being erased, into part of the solution. And I'll be sharing some real case studies with you today and also sharing some wonderful updates about the film. So the first one is that we finally begun editing. And what's very exciting is I was talking to our editor today, and he told me, he was looking at some of the footage of one of the main characters, and he told me something that is so obvious, but I had missed it because I'm so close. This young woman, when I first interview her, she's just in the process of beginning to reunite with her father, and after almost her entire childhood of no contact. And she's so sad and silent. And then when I go back a year later and she's been living with her dad for a year, has been getting her life back together, she's so happy and alive, and she's able to speak clearly, speak in public, and her life is on a different track. And he was like, this reunification really saved her. It really put her life in a better place. And it's something that's like so obvious, you know, like, but I didn't see it because I was that close. And it's like a wonderful arc for the film about how when we reunite with an erased family member, not only is that healing for everybody, but it also helps our lives get to a better place, because we're no longer in denial of a part of our true self. We are communicating and accepting where we come from. So I find that to be like super exciting, and I wanted to share that. And also just the feedback on what we filmed so far is that's all very moving, very powerful. And also what I think is very interesting too is, of course, I filmed a ton of experts, and we're going to have some very interesting expert testimony in the film from academics who are studying this subject matter, as well as advocates who are working on it. But the other thing was that, you know, people who are watching what I've shot have been saying, it's so obvious the trauma that this is. It's so obvious how the courts are messing up. You don't need to prove anything. It's kind of like there without having to prove it. And I think sometimes we get on the defensive so much, like we feel that no one will believe us, that we don't realize that if we come at the problem differently from a position of isn't this obvious and strength, people are often willing to go along with us. And that's why, and this ties into my talk today, which is about how schools can become allies as opposed to, you know, encouraging families being erased. So again, if you want to have a comment or a question, just type it into the comment bar and I'll ask it as we go. So right now, most people who work at public or private schools anywhere in the world, they don't know much about this problem, if anything, and often schools can be very overwhelmed. And because this isn't a problem that is glaring like a child getting hit at home or substance abuse or tardiness, and schools tend to put on the back burner. They tend to have no training in what having an erased parent means, what it looks like, how it can be prevented, how people can lie and manipulate children. They don't really understand this. So a lot of times when a parent comes in and says, I don't want the other parent to get any information about my child or be able to pick them up from school, the school will go along with it because it sounds convincing and they don't want to play it safe, kind of. So the school can often become a barrier for the erased parent to contact their child. But it doesn't have to be that way. And I know of a lot of examples of people who have used the schools to help them get on the path to reunification. And there's a few ways why this is very interesting, and it can yield some very interesting results and very positive results. So the first of all is that your child is in an institution for between 6 to 9 hours out of each day, and it is a place where they are not in contact with the other parent. They are alone in a school environment, and they are surrounded by other children and and professionals. So right there, your child is in a place where they're in kind of a neutral area. Now, the other parent may try to manipulate this area of the school to get on their side. And what I found is that the worst thing you can do, the least effective thing you can do, is go into the school defensively and start talking about defending yourself, no matter what the accusations have been told about you. And some of the best advice I've heard, and I've seen this work with really good results, is to go into the school, calmly present yourself, and you don't have to say that there's a problem or something. And first of all, look up the local laws in your state, province, area. But in most places, parents, if they haven't lost their parental rights, have a right to information about their child, report cards, school reports, disciplinary reports, and a right to meet with the teachers and attend school events. So you're just going to go in there and inform them that, you know, your child's from a divorced or separated home and you would like to receive all of this information, and to make sure that the teachers, secretaries all know that you want to receive this information, that you want to make sure that duplicates are sent, and just say this very calmly. Then, if there is an opportunity to do so, try to get as involved as you can in your child's school. Even if it's not with activities with your child, which in some cases can cause undue stress to the child, or having the other parent yank the child out of the activities, is there some way that you can volunteer in the school that maybe has nothing to do with your kids? So if the school has a bake sale, can you bring in cookies yourself? Can you help with school cleanup, running an activity, anything like that? And what a lot of parents have told me is that there's been so many lies told about them, and the most effective way to disprove it, and this can take 6 months to a year or more, is by going to the school, being calm, friendly, talking to people. And this is a way more effective way to disprove whatever's been told about you than trying to disprove it or bringing facts to contradict this. So what's interesting about this approach is that those false accusations naturally fall away. This isn't possible in all situations. I know there's a lot of people who can't go to their kids' schools, or the school is completely being manipulated already. But if you can go from strength and helping out, I mean, because then, you know, what if, you know, like you're called Mr. Smith, and one of your child's friends says, "Oh, Mr. Smith brought in some great cookies the other day." And the kid might say, "Oh, that's my dad." And they're hearing something positive, and not, you know, that, you know, your dad came in and made a scene, or, you know, you try to like corner your child if they're still alienated, they don't want to talk to you. But just coming in slowly, it can be very difficult to be so close yet so far to your child. But I have seen cases where this really has done like a 180-degree turnaround in the case, because it's just an ability to have a different intermediary. Now, this can also have bad results in that the child could be yanked out of school. I've heard that happen too. Move to a different school, or move so there is no contact. So you have to think about the degrees that the other parent will go to. And in one case, I actually saw the school get involved and send a letter to the father who was being erased, saying that he was always welcome at school events and always welcome to come in during recess and see his daughter anytime he wanted. And the school made it very clear to the mom that preventing this relationship wasn't healthy. And I actually got a chance to see the mom and the dad at a school function, and then afterwards they all went out for ice cream. And they had been separated for a very long time. They were actually, if I remember correctly, never together. And that's because in moderate cases of a family member being erased, not severe cases, not when there's a lot of craziness going on, what enables this erasing to happen is the social contract that says it's okay or we'll look the other way. And as soon as everybody in society says this isn't okay, this isn't acceptable, those types of moderate cases will often begin to correct themselves. So again, this isn't something that can work in any case, in every case, but it's an interesting strategy to consider. Knowing that this is not a long-term solution, and knowing that volunteering, getting involved in school affairs and the PTA, showing up to school board meetings, don't use it as an excuse to corner your kid and talk to them if they're not ready for that. It's a chance for you to build up this social capital that the other parent might have depleted in a very calm way. And it might be very hard. So, you know, But, you know, isn't it great if you start making friends in your kid's school and there's ways to participate? And then if you want to take it a step further, and you can, because a lot of people say, well, I want to go, you know, talk to Congress, to my public officials about this. Start at your school. Do a presentation for the PTA. Do a presentation for the teachers. Hand out information. And we're going to be designing curriculum packets and handouts and presentations to go along with the release of the film. And one thing that's very important is to do it in very neutral language. So you're not putting blame on another parent, but just talking about how these things can happen and how they're damaging to the child, but how they can be corrected, as opposed to be aware of the narcissist abuser in your midst. Because then it gets into the drama, and you need to come in drama-free. It's very interesting because I have been, you know, doing a lot of work on myself, and one of the things, you know, I've been telling myself is releasing the drama. Drama's for the film, it's not for real life. So I'm going to look at some of the comments. So Amy Valerio Crawford said they turned their back, having no idea the trouble they will be in when we prove the facts we submitted, etc. I've been begging my son's school, they just blow me off. So Amy, I would suggest possibly changing the way you approach this. So already you're coming in there from a very like angry and aggressive attitude, you know. No idea the trouble they'll be in. The idea isn't to get people to pay for the mistakes, but for them to correct their behavior so they can help you and your child. And I've said this in other things about why you never win in family court. If you are looking for justice to be served and to be proven right, good luck, and it's probably not going to happen. It's kind of, you know, stop clinging to that. The important thing is to preserve a relationship with your child and have your child have access to as much love as possible and have them be free of conflict growing up. So if you can, start going to school and being nice to everybody. And if they say you can't have access to your kid, then in a very polite way saying, well, what can, you know, if you do have access, if there's no legal impediment, well, what, you know, but figure out what you need to bring in. Is it a copy of the order? Is it a letter from the judge? I know that sometimes going back to court is not an option, but if it is, how can you mutually prevent those facts to clear up any misunderstandings? Because that needs to be your attitude. I'm here to clear up misunderstandings. I'm here to help, and I want to just support my kid and know what's going on. You have every right to that. Not, I want you to know how wronged I've been. The schools don't want to get involved because and this is very important to remember, not only are they taking care of your kid, they're taking care of hundreds, possibly of thousands of other kids. And there's kids who are going to be showing up, you know, who've been sexually abused at home, who have addiction problems, whose parents are addicts, they don't have food at home. So don't bring in drama that they can easily dismiss as not that important. It's just divorcing couples. And that's one thing I've heard from a lot of teachers is that you don't know the pressure and lack of resources we're under. So one thing that we need to do when the film Erasing Family comes out is show how we need to shift resources from punitive family court, adversarial family court, to mediation, strategies that leave trauma, therapy, counseling, stress reduction programs, anger management programs for people, parenting classes, all these positive things that can help our families as opposed to punishing them. So Tracy Ann, the judge sent letters to the school to encourage contact with the alienated father. They did nothing to help. He even made the findings open so school got a copy. So Tracy Ann, in that case, if you have a judge with the letter, my question is to you is, can the school do something concrete like letting the father go to school functions and parent-teacher meetings? Not getting involved in that case. And how can that happen? And just focus on the baby steps. So the first thing is parent-teacher conferences. Can you go? Do you have to go separately? Do you have to arrange a separate time? Making that happen. Making sure you get a copy of school records. So you know what's going on. This is very important. And it's the easiest right. And then from there, working up. And often they won't get involved until they know more about your case and more about you. And it's not like, don't bring them the case file. They're not going to read it. I do this all day long, and people send me their case files, and I don't read them because they're so long. And it's like, well, what can I do with this? So to keep in perspective the burden that these schools are under, how they're often under-resourced, come there with the attitude, I want to help solve a problem, which is making sure my kid has the resources and help they need and a healthy upbringing, not I'm bringing another problem to your door. So, Amy Valerio Crawford, my ex-district treat me like an escaped convict. I'm so sorry to hear that. So, stop believing that's who you are. And I always try to say to myself, I don't have enemies, I have friends who don't know me yet. Yeah, I have enemies. Yeah, there's people who don't like me. I'm not living in a bubble, but I'm just like, they haven't known me yet. They haven't really listened to my side. They are being misinformed. And the more you do that, and the more you're just like, oh, because, you know, people tweet at me all the time. They're like, I hate your movie, you're alive, blah, 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 blah. Instead of saying, oh, well, I hate you too, you know, saying, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Is there some information I can clear up for you? Are you going through a rough time? Do you need someone to talk to? And it just disarms people, because if they think you're an escaped convict and you go and angry and like acting, you know, like the worst thing you can do if you're accused of being violent is to go and angry. You mean as justified in the world, but like it just doesn't help. But if you go in calmly, then people are like, well, I thought this person was angry, but they're not. John Carroll. Oh, hi, Louis, Jimmy, Cajones. Lewis, I hope I'm saying that right. He was one of the first people to send in an erased dad photo and an erased family photo, like way back 2 years ago. I still remember you. I'm always hoping that your case can be resolved. John Carroll, I have used this technique and have had some success. My son is older than 19, and for 6 months we were making progress. Son started to reconnect. Unfortunately, I went to a funeral for a family member and my son initiated engagement. I thought I was in the right path, but he has gone to the ground for the past 2 months. So, John, I'm so sorry to hear that, but it is, so I guess to clarify, if you can put in a comment, you were going to school and this was helpful, and then you just missed a call and he got angry. If you could explain so people will know what things you did involving the school, that'd be very helpful. Amy Valerio Crawford, I approached very nicely for 1 year. They're rude, put my district down, and would not let me in the door, refused me access to my son's info. So if that case, if you have the right to the son's info, that is something that I would say is worth, you know, I'm always wary of family court, but that is one thing that if there's a way that you can quickly resolve that and get some proof and, you know, take to the court that this is happening, there might be a way to resolve that, because it's often considered like a minimal standard to meet. And if you can't, unfortunately, that door wouldn't work, but it's good that you went there and you approached him very nicely and continue to reach out very nicely. And, you know, can you send, you know, cupcakes or, you know, like flowers on Secretary's Day? Not in a bribey way, but just always being nice. And it's very hard to be rude to someone who's nice. It's possible and people do it, but you're making it hard for them, especially because you have shared legal custody. So in that case, you know, I think you need to just take a step back and see what can be done. And sometimes, unfortunately, the deck is stacked against you and you can't win. Marine Del Valentino, would be great to be available to schools to show classrooms and have counselors and nurses get training. Yeah, that's the whole idea of the film, is to make it available for schools and professionals, universities. John Carroll, great advice. Ground means going silent. Okay. So John Carroll, I invited myself to his graduation, was very respectful. I'm trying to de-escalate, but my ex is very resistant. That's good. Show up. I mean, one of my goals with the film is to start a campaign where we'll send information letters to the school, and all what the campaign is, and this is so simple, is asking that before major school events, they send home a letter or an email or, you know, text blast, or however schools are communicating now. I've been out of the game for a while, saying an important school event is coming up. And we want to know that there's a lot of families that are going through divorce and separation, and all family members are always welcome, and we will be happy to seat families separately if needed. And it's such a small thing, but that could be super helpful. And just like, because I remember if I had that letter, because the first choice I had to make was who got to go to my graduation, my mom or my dad. And they're both like, we can't both go. Who do you want to go? And I felt so alone and so horrible. And I eventually did make a choice. And if the school had sent something home and I could have just been like, look, my principal says not to make me do this, and just get in touch with them and work it out yourselves. Because as a kid, you can't do that, but it's like, talk to the authority figures in my school, the principal said to work it out. That could be helpful in some cases. Amy says, I had legal threatened. I tried NICE for a year. They know me. I'm a pediatric nurse and adopted parent in the state. I send great info on how they can help my son and other students there. So just like keep nice and see if you can get involved in any way, and ask how can you volunteer when you're not in contact with your son, if that's the concern. Are there any more questions or comments before we begin wrapping this up? And while I'm waiting for any final comments or questions, I just want to say that last week we started editing the Erasing Family film. I've been talking to the editor, and he thinks what we have is super strong and super emotional, and it really shows how beneficial reuniting can be, because I have footage of a girl who reunites with her dad, and a year later after living with her dad, and she's just so much happier and so more fulfilled. So if you want to get involved, there's a few things you can do that are super easy. One, this video or other videos, share them on your page. Send them to people who you think could benefit from them. Two, go to erasingfamily.org. If you haven't already, click on Share Your Story. And they're super easy. You can upload a video, and you can also take a survey where you can give us a lot of information about your case. We welcome all the videos you want to make. Other family members can make videos. We've even had kids make videos. And it's a super easy app because you can see the video before you submit it. So if you don't like it, the sound isn't good, or whatever, you can not send it and redo it over. And then if you haven't already, we really need help finishing the film. Go to erasingfamily.org. Make a donation. It's tax deductible. Oh, I just see Lynn Steinberg just joined, one of our supporters. Hi, Lynn. Great to see you. Rick Tobin, I'm going to shout out to you. Rick Tobin's an associate producer, which means he donated the $1,000 level. Anyone can be an associate producer if they donate that level, and it means that you are really helping to have the film get made. And I'm so excited because I feel like we're all together working on how we can reunite families as opposed to just wallowing in the grief. And remember, the greatest gift you can give your kids is to be healthy and happy. And I know it's next to impossible to be happy when you can't see your kids, but it's okay to try. It's okay to take care of yourself. And not only is it good for you, but what the kids have told me who reunite with their parents after years or decades of no contact is they did it because when they saw their parent, and I talked to a girl who honestly had never seen her dad. She maybe saw him when she was an infant, but she never saw him at all for 19 years. And she said, he just had so much unconditional love to give, and for the first time in my life, I have unconditional love, and he's such a happy guy, and we laugh together, and it's so great. And it's not about my dad was blamed and a victim, because she was like, I don't want to hear about the past, but just all of this love. Rick Tobin said, almost 24 million children live in fatherless homes today in the United States. An estimated 71% of high school dropouts come from fatherless homes, per various reports. High conflict divorce and hostile aggressive parenting styles that involve one parent keeping the other parent away from their children's schools is that it can discourage children from fully enjoying their childhood and school years. Many children later drop out of school partly due to the frustrations of family conflict, sadly. Very true, and we have a case of that in our film, that, you know, denying child a relationship with a loving, fit parent who can be there to support them and bring them more love obviously is not good for the child. It's not healthy. And we just need to have society realize that and realize there's so much causes of trauma. This is one of the easier ones to solve because we can redesign our family court system to prevent this from happening. There's also a lot of trauma that's, I would say, even more important. Structural poverty, gun violence, food insecurity, homelessness, home insecurity. There's all these things. Those are really, really hard problems to solve. Not impossible, and I think society needs to get their act together and start solving them. But this is one of those problems where, like, it shouldn't exist. In fact, it would save everybody money right away if this problem existed, not just in the consequences of treating children who are traumatized and go into adulthood as traumatized adults who can't add to the economy because they drop out, who need these special services, but also all these parents, instead of spending money on trying to see their kids, could spend that money on their children, you know, helping other people out. So it's like, it's really a win-win. And we needed to start talking about this is an easy, simple solution as opposed to how hard and difficult it is to solve. So again, thank you. Please follow us, share this video. Everyone's like, how can I help? Boom. When you close this video, share it to your timeline. Share it to other groups. Number 2, go to erasingfamily.org. Share your story there. Create a video tribute for your kid. You can create one for each kid. Every family member can create one. 3, if you can, donate. Any donation, $50 or more, gets your kid a dedication of the film or thank you in the credits of the film. That's it. Stay strong. Take care of yourselves. See you next week. Same time, same place. Bye.